What's up, guys? It's Joe back again talking about Kansas State, and I know you've seen a lot of videos of me talking about the transfer portal and talking about the basketball side of things. Today we're flipping that coin and we're talking about football. Now, I just got done watching the Royals lose 3-0 to the Angels. It was rough, but that's kind of what we've learned to expect as Royals fans. I decided before the night's over I'm going to talk about a team I love and is actually pretty good at what they do. So I'm going to give you my prediction about the 2023 football schedule. We're going to go game by game. I'm going to give you a score prediction for the game, and then also give you a full season idea of what's going to happen, what I'd like to happen, and a couple of all Big 12 players from K-State that I like to make that list. But before I do get into things, let me say thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel. The channel's growing like crazy. I mean, we just passed 700 subscribers the other day, and I can't believe it. I am so appreciative of everyone that subscribes and just takes the time out of their day to watch the video. So if I can provide any type of joy by talking about a team I love, hey, I will do that every day for you guys, and I appreciate you guys being here. If you're interested in subscribing, go ahead and click that button. We're giving away a free lavender quarter zip at 1,000 subs. If you want to try to get your hands on that, go ahead and hit subscribe, and we'll talk more details as we cross that threshold. But for now, let's take a look at the football schedule. Now, we start things off against Southeastern Missouri, and that game actually kicks off in 77 days, 19 hours, 23 minutes, and 2 seconds. So mark your calendars. We'll be ready for that one. SEMO, I mean, these games are free. You know what I mean? I don't mean to just jinx us like that, but these games aren't really set up to have the underdog win in this case. This spread's probably going to be like 31 points, 25 to 31 points, realistically, for the Cats. It's in Manhattan, so that always helps, but it's just not a team that's ready to upset a major Power 5 conference team. It's just not. My final score projection, I think it's going to be a lot like the South Dakota game from this previous year. You know, maybe we won't see an end-around type play that goes for 75 yards in the first play or anything, but I think that K-State's just going to be bigger, more physical. And you know what I really like to happen in this game is I love the running backs to dominate the game. Nothing too crazy, nothing too flashy. We don't need to go down the field too much, but I like both Treshaun Ward and DJ Giddens to go score in this game. I think the final score on this one, it's going to be 41-10 here. I don't see SEMO really putting up much of a fight. They might get an extra score there, but K-State defense is going to be headhunting. And I think once the guys step back on the field like Kobe Savage, this is just going to be a lights-out day for sure. Moving on to Troy. Now, Troy's a better team than a lot of us would think about. They only lost 2 games last year. They were ranked in the top 25 for the majority of the season. They kind of came out of nowhere, but they actually had a really good season. People are saying it's a trap game. While it is closer to a trap game than not, I don't see K-State struggling too much. What I want them to do, and you might all roll your eyes at this and say, Joe, this is a stupid idea. I'm willing to accept that. It's time to wear alternate helmets. Don't click off the video for me saying that. K-State's lost their curse. We're losing it this year against Troy. I would love to see that. Troy gives off good vibes, but not vibes of like a Tulane team where it's just going to be the worst game of all time to watch. That's not going to happen with Troy. I like K-State to win this game, and not like, anything too crazy, but 28-17, I think I could see, maybe even 28-14. But for now, I'm going to go 28-17. That's where I'm at on the Troy game. K-State starting off 2-0 before taking on the Missouri Tigers in Columbia. Now, I think last year was the stupidest thing they could have done by putting up posters of Deuce Vaughn, if you didn't hear that story. They talked about it on a couple of different podcasts. Basically, Deuce Vaughn heard that Mizzou was putting up posters that said, "Don't let 22 beat you," which is just a dumb idea. I don't see Chris Kleiman and the boys taking a gear off and saying, you know what, we're just not going to, we're not going to have a good game here. I think K-State's a better team, a more physical team. I don't think Mizzou can compete right now. That's just where they're at, and I don't think they have the right guy in charge, man. I don't think Drinkwitz is the guy that really should be leading a team. Full disclosure, I'm sorry if you're a Mizzou fan watching this, but that's just where I'm at right now. I don't think they have the right guys on the field or in the coaching spot. I think K-State wins that game 37-17. It'll be closer than the last time we played because it is in Columbia, and I'm sure it'll be a packed-out game. But that's where I stand on that. K-State starting off 3-0 before taking on the new edition Big 12 team, the UCF Knights. Now, UCF, that's the next game on the schedule here. They finished decent last year. They played good football. They finished second in their conference in the ACC, behind Tulane, who we all know and somewhat love, I would say. UCF had a decent season, and I do think, full disclosure, that K-State's going to struggle a little bit, but I don't think it's a game we lose. I think for those of you who haven't watched enough UCF football, you're going to be a little bit shocked to see who they have playing quarterback. John Reese Plumlee, he's a really athletic guy. He's a dual athlete. He plays both baseball and football. He's our starter at quarterback, and he's my dark horse candidate for Heisman, like way beyond Heisman odds. I think he could have a really good season, but I don't see UCF being ready to compete with K-State yet. I like K-State to win this game, and in that, I like K-State 34-24. And my reasons, I know that's pretty close, but I think K-State struggles a little bit more with athletic quarterbacks. When we have a guy that just kind of sits there and waits, we can push the pocket. You've seen that with Felix, with Khalid Duke. You've seen guys like that have pushed the pocket, moved up to the less athletic quarterback type guys. Plumlee does not fit that mold. That dude's going to be scrambling and moving, and it could be a recipe for, a tougher game. I don't see it as a loss, but it's going to be a tough game either way. Oklahoma State, week 5 here. K-State's 4-0 going into this game. Oklahoma State is really interesting. They're really head-scratching. The biggest thing is, who is their quarterback? Alan Bowman, I know, transferred in there. Yeah, I guess. I mean, a Michigan transfer, I think originally played at Texas Tech and had some productive years there, and I could be totally wrong on that, but that's what I'm rolling with. Michigan didn't play him. They didn't play him at all. They had their guy, but he might have had 60, 70 yards in both his junior and senior season. He's now headed to Stillwater. I just don't trust that program yet. I know that people are going to say Mike Gundy will get it done and figure it out. I still think it's too early. It's good that we're getting him early in the schedule, and I'll say that about a couple of people. If it was, in place of the Iowa State game or the Kansas game, it might be a different outcome, but I do like K-State to handle business against Oklahoma State, and they're going to win this game 27-21. It's still close because it's at Oklahoma State. It's in Stillwater. Mike Gundy still knows how to coach a team. I still think it's a question mark of a game, but I think K-State handles business. Now, Texas Tech. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Everybody has kind of unanimously written this off as a loss. I don't agree. I don't. I think Tech is good, and I think they have really talented guys. Once again, getting them early in the schedule is a huge kicker. I don't know if they're going to have all the kinks worked out yet. Tyler Show, I know he's 8-0 as a starter. I still have some doubts about him, about his sustainability for the game. I don't know if he's going to be 100% healthy, not just by this time. I just think that at some point, somewhere along the season, he might regress. He might have a struggle moment, and I think week 5, week 6, it's a good place to have it. In this game, I still think Tech is a really talented team. I think Joey McGuire is a great guy to lead their squad. I think they place K-State close, but I think Will Howard, a couple of guys on the offense, make plays that settles the difference. I like this game to go to overtime, 100% honest. But I do like K-State to win 33-30. That could not happen. It could happen, but I'm not as high on Tech as everybody else is, but I do think they're a talented team for sure. And we are heading into TCU at 6-0, okay? And all of the arguments are going to say, is this the next TCU? Is everyone ready to see K-State go to a college football playoff? We're going to take a step back. At some point in the schedule, we're going to take a step back. And I know you might not like to hear that. It might sound like I'm twisting your arm. Unfortunately, I had that game pegged for October 21st against TCU. I do. It's in Manhattan. So that's the one lone thing that's kind of tough to project. I think there's so much energy surrounding TCU saying we're not losing to these dudes after what they did to us in the Big 12 championship. There's just been a lot of beef with TCU this season on Twitter, on social media. And whether teams want to say they don't hear that or not, they hear that. I mean, everybody in the locker room hears that type of conversation. I think this is going to be the Super Bowl for TCU. And I know there's the overused tweet about that I hate being their Super Bowl. I think TCU is ready to go. And I know that they don't have a great quarterback. I mean, and that could age poorly. Chandler Morris could take over and go well. I mean, he did beat Max Duggan out last season before he got injured. I just don't know if they have all the questions answered, but I do think at some point we're going to see that Tulane game where it's just, physically repulsive to watch in terms of K-State football. One of those games is going to happen, but I will say it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Obviously, losing is never good, but K-State isn't going to be a 12-0 team. They're not. They're super talented, and they could, but it's somewhere along the way they're going to have one step back, one regression, one pass interference game, one holding game. Something's going to bite us at some point, and I like the TCU game, unfortunately, for that. In that game, I've got it being 20-17. I don't see it being a high-scoring game. Both defenses are too physical. And I don't know. I think K-State will at some point slack a little bit. We won't get some of these 4th and 1 calls we've gone for in the past. Something somewhere along the way has to go. That's the game I'm picking for. Moving on. Houston. Now, Houston, I'm going to be 100% honest. They were a good team last year. They caught a lot of flack for stuff they might not have deserved. But man, they're in over their heads. I think they're 100% in over their heads. I think their coach is okay. Dana Holgerson, I could be pronouncing that wrong as well, so fair warning. They lost a lot of games where I'm like, dude, you're losing to that? I mean, not only did they give up basically 50 to Kansas week 2, week 3, before we knew this team's actually much better than they have been in the past. They gave up 48 to Kansas. They lost 38 to Kansas the second or third week of the season. They gave up 77 points to SMU last season. 77 points. They lost 63 to 77. No defense was played. I don't see Houston competing with K-State. 100%. It's in Manhattan. It's not happening that way. K-State's going to roll in that game. I had to pick a game where there's going to be that Oklahoma State put up 48, 50 points. It's coming against Houston. I think K-State wins that game 48-24. It could even be less in terms of defensive points, how many were given up. I just don't trust Houston. I don't think they have enough players on the field right now. And make whatever you want to say about that. It's our homecoming game. K-State's not losing their homecoming game. Moving on, Texas. Now, everybody's once again chalked this Texas up as a loss because they have the greatest roster in all of college football. Full disclosure. They've got Archman and they've got Quinn Ewers. They've got a ton of players, 5 stars at every position. And the argument for K-State has always been doing more with less. We will continue to do that. And I think it's going to be a great game. I don't know what this Texas roster is going to look like at that time. There's going to be injuries. There is. Quinn Ewers hasn't played healthy last season. It's only been in college football for 1 year. I just don't know what the Texas roster is going to look at come November 4th. There's going to be injuries. There always is in every team. It just depends how severe the injuries are. If Quinn Ewers can make it, I think it'd be an interesting fight against him. But I do think K-State loses this one. It's in Austin. I think it's going to be another close one, to say the least. K-State loses this game 31-24, heading into the final 3 games at a record of 7-2. Now, I think K-State is going to be one of the best teams in the Big 12. Don't get me wrong. I think that Texas game and the TCU game could both be flips of the coin. I think there's a lot of games we win here, and there's some that are question marks. Both Texas, TCU fit that mold. The last 3 games, I think K-State puts statements down, 100%. I think they're tired of losing. We have some type of mess up against Texas. I don't think the coaching staff lets that happen against Baylor. It's Fort Riley Day. Expect K-State to roll. Dave Aranda's squad looked weird last year. They looked bad last year. A defensive-minded guy, they just didn't stop anybody. K-State beat the brakes off of them, and that was in Waco, too. I don't see K-State losing, especially if they're coming off a loss against Texas. I like K-State in this one. 41-12, 100%. That's a lot of points. It's a lot of points scored. I just don't think Baylor's done enough to turn it around. They haven't landed enough good players. They got a young quarterback that's not really proven, to say the least. He's had some good moments, but I just don't see that being a good thing. I don't. KU, the Kansas game, November 18th in Lawrence. Now, I know we all are quick to say KU's not good. They're never beating us. I do want to give them some props before I get into this pick. They've had a great recruiting class as is, and I know it's early enough that I'm recording this video that realistically they'll probably drop down. I think they're in 2nd or 3rd in the Big 12 right now in terms of recruiting. But that being said, it also is the middle of June. It's June 16th, 17th, I think. June 16th right now. There's going to be teams that pass them up for sure. I think they finished 5th, 6th in Big 12 recruiting, which is still a massive turnaround from the past. I just don't see K-State losing this game. They're too good of a team. Kansas will eventually get to a point where they're going to be like, they might win this game. They have some competition. This year doesn't feel like it. It does feel like it could happen eventually. It doesn't feel like it yet, especially with Will Howard still there. I think maybe if you caught us with a younger quarterback, and once again, the other argument for this, I mentioned with Texas Tech, they're catching us at a bad time. Kansas is catching us in the 2nd to last week of the season. When you're supposed to be playing your best football, headed into bowl games, headed into Big 12 championship stuff, if K-State's sitting there at 7-2, 8-2, I don't see them losing to Kansas. I think they win this game 31-20, so still a little bit closer than it has been in the past. I just don't think they're quite there yet. Jalen Daniels, once again, I don't know what his health is like. He has to play for that game to be close. I don't think Jason Bean delivers. He's going to have to be healthy for that, and we'll see what happens there. Last game of the season, Iowa State. Now, for those of you, I know there's a couple of Iowa State people that watch my channel. I apologize before I give you this pick. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm sorry. Iowa State and Matt Campbell are the weirdest relationship I've ever seen. They've won a lot of games. Never more than 10, but they've won a lot of games. Sorry, that was a cheap shot. I shouldn't have said that. But they've won a lot of games. They've also lost a lot of games in inopportune ways where their offense couldn't do anything last year. They had a horrible offense last year. Their defense was unbelievable. Unfortunately, they lost a lot of the dudes from that unbelievable defense, and they didn't really add anybody in this class. I know they've been really active in both 2024 on offense and defense, but not so much in terms of offense. I don't think Iowa State beats K-State. I think K-State drops the hammer and says, you know what? We belong in the Big 12 championship game. If the playoff allows us, we're going to get there. That's what we're going to do. This is going to be their statement win. I like 44-15 over Iowa State. I think some wonky things are going to happen in this game. Defensive touchdowns. I think there's special teams touchdowns from K-State. I just don't think Iowa State is ready this year. And I don't want to sit here and say it's Matt Campbell's job on the line. They've changed some coaching stuff around, but I just don't think they're as good as they could be, especially this year. I like K-State to finish the season off at 10-2 headed into a Big 12 championship game. I'm not going to give you my prediction of who I think it is. It'll be, a combination of maybe Texas or Texas Tech. People have talked about both those teams. Oklahoma State still has a chance, even if their quarterback situation's a little bit up in the air. There's teams that could sneak their way into there. Obviously, Oklahoma gets some props, but I just think K-State's going to be a competitive team that doubles down on the previous season. It's just physical. That's the biggest thing. No team in the Big 12 right now can compete physically with K-State. That's the difference. Not just the dudes that are 5 stars and athletic. I don't see a lot of people that want to get in the trenches and try to go up against Cooper Beebe, the rest of that offensive line. That sounds like a nightmare for me. But let me say, guys, that has been my prediction for the season. We might get into the playoff. I think 2 losses, they're going to turn their head, especially at a Big 12 school. They're going to say, well, if you were Texas or if you were Oklahoma, there's a case. I don't know if K-State gets into the playoff. That's neither here nor there. We'll see what happens. They could win both those games. They could lose more games with injuries or something like that. But I feel pretty confident this is going to be my prediction. I did mention I hit you with the 4 predictions or 5 predictions for the Big 12 team. So the guys I like on that list, I haven't really written anything down for this, but I have thought about it. If K-State has a 10-2 season, Will Howard's the first team All-Big 12. Another guys I like, Kobe Savage, immediately. Let me start this by saying Cooper Beebe probably deserves praise to be the first guy mentioned. It's not in order of who I like the most to least. I think the 3 dudes immediately. Will Howard, first team All-Big 12 at quarterback. Kobe Savage, I think he's going to be lights out. I think he's going to be national media every time he steps on the field. His comeback and his passion, like just knowing the guy, knowing the guy. I had him in a couple classes and talked to him a couple times. Nothing too serious, but super mild-mannered, super chill dude. And then he gets on the field and he's got this just hunger and this chip on his shoulder. I can't imagine how ferocious he's going to be this season. I think he's going to be incredible. First team All Big 12 player at the safety position for sure. I like Cooper Beebe. Obviously, he's an automatic lock, so that's not breaking news by any means. I think Daniel Green could, but I do think he gets snubbed. I like Austin Moore to be our fourth guy. And our fifth and final guy I'm a huge fan of, Ben Sinnott. I mean, the Big Ben, he's ready to go, man. Ben Sinnott, Will Howard. I like Cooper Beebe, obviously, is automatic. Kobe Savage and Austin Moore to be my five guys, first team All Big 12. And then anything beyond that, we'll see. Phillip Brooks might sneak in there as a special teams guy. But that's my predictions for the K-State football season. Let me know if you like it. Let me know what you think, what you'd change. Give me a comment. Give me your thoughts on that. I appreciate you guys watching as always. If you're interested, once again, consider subscribing. We do K-State videos just about every other day. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, and go Cats.